So for our last session, Final Reflection Roundtable, we have an honor from Professor Peter Dejans from the Orpheus Institute, the director, here himself. He will be helping us and guide us in thinking and reflecting of the past a few days and also projecting into the few points that will be important for the future.
Thank you very much, Anotai. So, dear friends, here, participants, wasn't this a wonderful, a marvelous symposium? Please react. How have we enjoyed an extremely rich diversity of concerts, presentations, discussions, workshops, group presentations, individual lectures, all wrapped up in an impeccable organization with a fantastic team of students, staff, office members, members of the leadership, and so on and so on. And we are almost at the end. I have been asked, or should I say, I have been tasked here with providing a final reflection on this symposium. Not only is this a task that can seem to be very tricky, a task that you normally try to delegate further, but it might also be a truly impossible task. Because, and I hope you will agree, how on earth can such a symposium have a reflection that is final, literally final? Of course it can't, nor should it, because we all hope that all what we have been privileged to experience here in the past few days will make us reflect for a long time to come. So it will not be a final reflection. It will be a final invitation to all of you, to all of us. On the one hand, to briefly look back at the themes that surfaced during this symposium, but on the other hand, especially and above all, an invitation to try to articulate some of our dreams related to these topics, to look ahead during this final hour. So my plan is the following. I would like to give you some themes and topics that came to my mind while listening to presentations and discussions over the course of this week. You could think of it as briefly refreshing the memory. It is by no means an exhaustive list of topics, rather a personal interpretation. And so feel free to add items to it. And I have formulated the topics in the form of questions. And this is for an obvious reason. It should inspire or prompt you to come up later in this session with some new ideas for future actions in your own institute or work environment later. So, shall we get started? Here is my list. Before I show the list in the PowerPoint, I should mention that the intellectual rights for making up this wonderful PowerPoint are due to Sandrine Demure. Thank you very much, Sandrine. There are 8 topics, 8 questions. Intersecting pathways. How can we explore the intersections between accessibility, sustainability, and cultural diversity within musical expressions? And how might these intersections shape the future of musical cultures? I hear you already thinking, it's fantastic. Yeah. Later on, you will get the mic, everyone. Everyone will get the mic at a certain moment not to answer these questions, but these questions are there to maybe bring you to something that you would like to express as a kind of, again, a kind of a wish, a hope for the future. Be aware that you're not representing, that you don't need to represent your institution. It can be a very personal thought as well. The second one. At the end, I give an overview of the 8. Inclusive innovation. What innovative strategies can bridge the gap between traditional musical practices and modern accessibility needs, ensuring that musical cultures remain vibrant and relevant to all generations? Technology and tradition. In what ways can technology both preserve and transform musical traditions? And how can we balance technological advancements with the preservation of cultural authenticity? Musical education evolution. How might higher music education adapt curricula to foster a deeper understanding of the cultural, social, and environmental contexts that influence musical accessibility and sustainability? Global local dynamics. Considering the global nature of music dissemination, how can we nurture local musical identities while promoting cross-cultural collaboration and understanding? Empowerment through music. How can musical experiences empower marginalized communities and individuals, fostering a sense of belonging and agency through inclusive participation? The before last one. Cultural policy impact. What roles do cultural policies play in shaping the accessibility and sustainability of musical cultures? And how can policy frameworks evolve to better support these aspects? And finally, intergenerational knowledge transfer. What strategies can be employed to facilitate the transfer of traditional musical knowledge between generations while embracing contemporary learning techniques? So we had the pleasure to listen to great presentations, to great stories, great success stories, storytelling. We know that this is, let's say, a conference phenomenon. Every speaker would rather have appeared with a success than a failure. But no roses without thorns. No delights without sacrifices. So, dear friends, let's leave this conference phenomenon behind us now and let us accept the feeling of vulnerability. As artists, we should be used to that. At this moment, we could perhaps zoom in a little on the trickier challenges, not immediately focused on the past, but rather on the future. I would like to see this session as a kind of brainstorming, a brainstorming moment where, inspired by what we heard from each other, we exchange ideas about actions we would like to take in the future, near or distant. That's why I spoke a moment ago about an invitation to dream. these ideas that we will share do not need necessarily to be actions that we already are planning concretely in our institutions. They may also be plans that are still in an idea phase. I think the latter category can be even more inspiring. I'm talking about plans approaching the nature of a wish, or wishes that have the potential to become a plan, an action, a look to possible future actions. It very much connects with the wonderful project Fast 45, presented this morning by Sandrine. So let us be courageous and turn this meeting into a brainstorming session. Each of you will find a starting point among these topics with your own ideas. You do not need to ask the permission to your institution. My invitation is simple: share with us your ideas, your wishes. And I found 4 volunteers willing to start, very good friends. Anotai, Bernard, Jacques, Dawn. I would like to hand over to these 4 because they knew it on beforehand. They would be asked, of course. So it's good to give them the floor, and then the mic goes around. Of course, you're not forced to say something, that's clear. But it's a strong invitation. I think we can learn from all of you. Jacques.
Yes, thank you, Peter, because I had thoughts when listening, and maybe it can answer the second question. What innovative strategies can bridge the gap? It's more, I'm generalizing this, because I was quite questioned by the statement of Peter Tonquist saying that we need to build new conventions to open spaces for being able to move music forward. It was the sense. For me, in fact, if we building new conventions mean, okay, we can erase the old ones, but we are building new ones. And the problem is that we should no more build conventions. Open space for it's not moving music forward. Music is already moving forward. We can see here how music is moving forward, how music is used, how music is transformed. This is already there. So we don't need to build something to create that. It is created. The only thing we have to do is to notice that this is the reality. So it's not creating something for that reality to become, because it is already there. It's just see how our institutions can just catch what is moving already far beyond what we are doing. So for me, it's not I'm going back to the my plan is, it's not a plan. It's just the fact that you can't create a convention, you can just create rules for playing a game. When you have kids in primary school, you can give rules for the game. The first one who kicks the other one, he's out of the game. This is a rule. It's not a convention. So it meets what I say. We have to be imaginative to find a way of creating game rules just to allow what is happening to go on happening.
Thank you, Jacques. Thank you. Vaughan?
Okay.
Already? No.
Me? Okay. I don't know what I was doing. So yes, going back to what Jacques is saying, I think there is a lot of artists that really, well, to put it simply, who are really good, who goes unsupported, and this is happening everywhere, right? So I do not have a concrete plan, but it's just to reflect on a little bit on the cultural policy. I think this is a really, really important aspect that someone in the position of power can utilize to help finding all these hidden talents and put them into light.
I like it idea very much, Dawn. It is a responsibility that of a system, so to speak, to detect as soon as possible the talents at the age of 18 when you enter a conservatoire. My question is, do we really are searching for the talents that these individuals bring to the fore? Not always the case. Thank you very much. Anota, Bernard?
Go first. Almost.
Wishes, plans?
So it was one of the wishes would have been to follow Enatai, but on the other hand, because it would be more inspiring to follow Enatai, but on the other hand, hopefully it triggers some more inspiring thing for her or something, even if it's in opposition. I think intergenerationality is more the clue today than ever because of a lot of the points you're making there. Technologies have moved so fast, and the people who are most in touch with those are not of our generation or the generation below, and it offers opportunity for dialogue. So one thought working through from some of this is just how critical it is to be able to hear and give voice to those who perhaps have been nurtured with an understanding that they're going to be told what to think, and to help them have the space that they can feel for themselves. Intergenerationality, just thinking through, as Jack was speaking before, and about policy actually. A primary school teacher said to me a couple of weeks ago at an open day, and she's not a music teacher, but she told the story of an 8-year-old child who told the teacher she loves going to the music space because it's like her head goes on holiday. And actually the concept that we start from the concept that for some of the time we embrace the possibility of the head going on holiday, and that we work in the now and with play to take it forward. One of the challenges we face is obviously opening up diversity of materials and whatever. One of the deepest elements arguably is of the material we play with. We've got too into the context of paying homage to past materials, whereas if we actually allow everyone the opportunity to be creative in the space we give them to play in a society that doesn't give much play, then we start being more in the spirit of making music now. And that's the best place potentially to start for the future, because you interrogate the music you make now, you might learn something of what it could be from the past or through intergenerational interactions with each other. The risk I feel in the last 30 years is we've moved back from allowing the artists who were 20 or younger to have voice. I mean, I was listening to Genesine the other day. She was 16 when she was first making international places. So it's actually, how do we get that we hear what people are already doing rather than tell them what they should be doing? And that's the voicings I've heard in the last 4 or 5 years when listening more actively. For me, that's what Peter was doing 20 years ago, really listening to young voices, and is still listening to young voices. And then we help mentor to take that forward. So I think that intergenerationality, that play, that playing in the now, and daring to trust feeling away from head, knowing the head's getting plenty of food along the way.
Yeah. Okay, so that's me now. I just read some kind of poem this morning about actually to make it happen now. So I was going through these questions very quickly, and when you were asking about intersecting pathway, my plan will be don't stop. Inclusive innovation is to realize who you are. That should solve. Technology and tradition, not a problem of the new generation, it's a problem of our generation. Music education evaluation, so just don't stop at the borders between artistic and education. Just go beyond the border. Global, local dynamics. For me, a plan I would do now is go and see the world more and more. Empowerment through music, my mantra is share. Cultural policy impact, don't wait for the big macro things. Start with your micro energy and change things around you. Integrational knowledge transfer. Keep your curiosity and encourage people around you to be curious. That's the first part of my answer. The second part of my answer came from the session with our colleagues in Iceland. Yesterday, we were kind of discussing about most of the people are describing themselves as artists, musicians, curator, those kind of things. And there were discussion like, where would you like to be? And at the end, I realized that I'd like to be the comma between it. And the comma part is fun because it means you can keep having things between you. And now I realize, looking at the poster, I keep creating all these different words that you have to, maybe I really like to be a comma, or the and, or the space in between, all this kind of thing. And by that conclusion, it comes to my third possibly plan. Is first for myself to keep moving, to keep being alive within all these 8 questions that you have posted. And secondly, in terms of institution, I really doubt, I have to confess, the only reason I came into higher education is because I don't believe in it. I don't believe that the higher education should be institution that is stagnant and completely impenetrable, but it should be something that fluid, move with people, move with generations, move with the knowledge. So my plan would be trying to see how in the next years, decades, century or whatever, to see how this institution can be, instead of doing this vertical direction, but really flow or dissolve into society. And university is not something that is a physical building, but it is the mind, it is the heart within people. University should be within us.
Thank you, Anatai. Quite a virtuosic performance, I would say, encompassing and wow. Is there someone who dares to, after this brilliant? Yeah, it's not fair. Okay. Oh, great.
Well, I guess my first plan is to team up with Anatai and work on lots of projects, because I feel exactly the same about higher education, that I don't believe in it, and that's why I'm in it. And to all of those questions, again, is just, for me, it's just to constantly stay curious about everyone and everything, and never believe that you know an answer. And I think the searching for answers and searching for solution is often the problem in itself, because maybe there is no solution, maybe there is no answer, maybe there are only further questions and further ideas to share. Yeah, that's.
I think there was a German philosopher, I can't remember who, said that most problems start by solving them. I think it relates to what you said. Okay. Who else would like to share? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, no continuation of what has been discussed, but just a word that has intrigued me: the accessibility. Working this week with students of this beautiful institution, we actually also discussed what it actually means, and they were saying, well, if we play like really simple chords, that's very accessible. And I thought, well, that's an interesting way of thinking about it, because if you think, what are we actually talking about? I presume that the accessibility that you mean in this title of the conference is how accessible is actually music making and, for example, attending a concert for people outside of the music world, right? But I think it's kind of nice to think about that accessibility can also be in the music itself. And what do we think about that? And is there maybe a kind of semi-permeable space between what happens inside the music and what is outside the music? So there are just a bunch of thoughts about that accessibility. But I was surprised by my students, and actually in their performance tomorrow, they will actually also use that sort of simple idea of what is accessibility about music. Yeah.
Thank you, Karst.
As well as sustainability, which means playing very long notes.
Thanks. Thanks, Karst. Thank you.
Thank you. So if I may, perhaps maybe I will share some plan. The plan is actually to identify resources, because without the right resources, you cannot go ahead and do all these things. One of the resources, for example, is time. Another resource, whether you have the persons with the knowledge and the tenacity to carry out the plans. Another resources are students. Another resource is networks that you connect with in order to make cultural policy impacts. I mean, if I were to kind of apply resources, and I know that we have limited resources, right? How do we make the best use of these resources to actuate all these plans into action? And if we don't identify and be able to identify the kind of resources that we need, then we are still talking this again and again. Because with the right resources, only then can we kind of like carry out the physical activities in order to make this all come true. So that's probably my plan, to find the right resources to do all this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's so nice that the first resource that you indicated was time, which is maybe not always the first one that we think of when we talk about resources. I take this absolutely with me at home. Is it wonderful, the idea that resources are not always financial or human resources, as we call them. Time. Thank you. Paul?
I didn't raise my hand.
But no. But your face was
I was
clear.
On the brink of saying just the same thing.
Okay.
The notion of time, because, well, from my position, what I notice when we discuss, well, I'm responsible for research at the conservatoire, and as we all know, at least it was the case before, research was an add-on. It has been introduced like 10 years ago, something like that. So it was something students had to do. And of course, the time for this, not only of the student, but especially also of the supervisor, has always been limited in an amount of hours. But now, through what I discussed this morning, this kind of change in the approach of research, where it's much deeply connected with their artistic development and their professional visions, I noticed that students at our conservatoire become more enthusiastic about finding out something. And suddenly time is, for some of them at least, less of a problem. So they start to invest in what they are researching, and the distinction between their artistic and their research aspect sometimes also completely disappears. So it merges into one kind of curiosity path. And I really think the notion of time and the kind of resource of time how we deal with that, it might be something very practical to think about as institutions. You give a student, but not only the student, all those around the student, a certain amount of time to do something. And the danger of all these words is that we simply add up, and it's impossible. So there is a limited amount of time, and could we think, at least as an experiment, as a lab, from scratch of, okay, you get like your, how many hours do we have in 1 year? It's something like, it's 300, 1,500 or something like that. Yeah. So, okay, can we rethink what we can do with those 1,500 hours in a year to find out about something?
But these are the hours for the teachers, but the hours for the students should not be limited. No.
Well, yeah, no, that's also calculated. The hours.
Yeah, I know.
So, but I think it's worth the experiment to what could you do at such an amount of hours if you forget about all the rest.
Okay. Yes. Point taken. Last chance. Then I take the.
One remark maybe about sustainability. We noticed as we were doing the so-called first-year creative project in YST every year. So students are coming in, and before they even had any kind of lesson, they start creating a piece of music together. And we have sort of refined that process a little bit in the past years. And what I noticed was that when we let them work together without giving them any instructions, but we just pair them up, either duos or in trios. And we do it in such a way, we do it in such a way that, for example, students from different countries are grouped together. I noticed you're creating incredibly strong bonds. And these bonds create a sustained situation where they want to actually relive that situation and build on the friendships that they're making. So I think actually in the collaborative music making, you have a very strong sort of seed for creating something sustainable, because it has so much impact that they want to build further on that, and it sort of points into their future direction. Yeah. It's just an aspect.
Thank you, Karst. You would like?
Thank you. So sorry. May I do the second round? May I do the second round?
Of course.
Thank you. Just another plan that I discover from working is that with all this, the first thing you need is trust. In a way, trust in your colleagues, trust in your students, trust in your everything that you are encounter with, and I think with that it will lead to respect, and then only with that those things can happen. So I think if you ask what my plan will be, I will be like to create an institution that is full of trust. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Trust. Absolutely.
Trust in,
Yeah.
Trust in the future. Trust in the past.
Yeah.
Even.
Thank you very much. Bernard, second round.
May I, for Bernard as well?
The great ambition was to follow Enitai, so I get the chance. But that's also such a trigger for a thought that is becoming, for me, really powerful. The first semester that students arrive, so taking Karst's point and Enitai's point, the first thing we need to help people do is build the trust, respect, and the awareness of each other. And we tend to try and get people to be doing things rather than finding each other. And therefore that first trimester, I think, needs a really radical reimagining in the current educational landscape generally, to being, how do you get people in a space where they want to play? And it's really interesting in well-being. We're now counting hours as if every hour we are doing is an hour of suffering and we need to limit them. But when you play games, they blow the whistle to stop the game. It's the other way around. It's actually you limit the amount of time to play because the ambition should be to want to have more. So how do we get that the trust becomes that people want more time with each other, to explore each other, to explore the arts that they might be making? So the trust and respect becomes core to it, and the sense of otherness, the sense of how do you connect to the other so that you find the other in yourself, and through finding the other in yourself, how do you then become wider? So thank you, Anatai. Trust.
I have a very practical question about this. Do you think one should, at the entrance examinations or the entrance hurdles to be taken by students, do you think you should check this? Oh, sorry, yeah, you would also like?
Yeah, yes, but it's okay. But
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the interesting is the other big
Yeah. Yeah,
We need people with passion.
yeah, yeah. I'm happy to hear this. Something.
yes, just listening to you, just one thing that was really relevant during the first 45 project that I presented you this morning, it was my interview with Yves Citon, and I will use his word because it still resonated for me. He said, for the future, I have to become humble, and I want to become humble in the future. And he also said to me, we have to listen, and I take your words, listening to the margin, because innovative ideas are there. So becoming humble is my plan, and listening to the margin is my second plan.
Yeah, and kind of following this up is like, I mean, what we've been talking about is very much people who already have had the privilege to find themselves into an institution where there is space to explore, make mistakes, you know, go off-piste, do whatever because it's a safe space, or at least it should be, right, in a university setting. The majority of my work is actually outside of university, so doing artistic projects and working with people who might have not had any access to this. And that's what I think about, like, accessibility and sustainability of the university sector really, really relies on that we can make it, we can open it up to people who don't even think about going into the university space because they don't think it's for them. But actually, I think as universities, we can only survive if we listen to people who are marginalized, people who bring new ideas. And that's the whole point about diversity, right? Diversity around the table is not about that you can tick a box. It's if you don't have diverse experience around the table, you might not ask the right questions because you won't even think of them. And I think that's why I think we need, more diversity as a student body, as a teaching body, so that we can actually ask the right questions to get us to the places of making, changing musical culture, and hopefully through that, wider culture. Okay, that's you can.
I guess within institutions, I mean, I don't work for an academic institution at all. But I hear an awful lot of well-meaning discussion within academic institutions about listening to people in marginalised communities. But people within institutions, they tend to develop projects and dialogue with people in marginalised communities in various ways. But then those people are never in the building when people are having the discussions about what to do next. They're still out there. You're having discussions about people who are out there rather than in here. So I think one hope I'd have for the future is that contemporary music finally finds a way to get rid of the class divisions and restrictions that continue to hold it back in a way almost that no other art form does to that extent. And I think also my contribution to that as a curator would be to continue to make higher education less relevant to what you see in the concert stage.
Thank you. So we are almost there, I think. I personally would like to conclude, or conclusion is probably not the word, but with a personal reflection. By the way, Anotai gave me the nice epithet provocateur. I haven't been provoking yet. We all realize that we are going through extraordinary, sometimes even difficult times. That it looks we are piling up one crisis after the other. It is precisely in those difficult periods that art continues to show us that it has a more sensitive ear, that it speaks to us with greater sensibility to what is happening to us. We as artists have the responsibility to try to see how art could help us to develop thoughts, to think through certain problems. So we should probably not only talk about and discuss these important topics like sustainability, accessibility, gender issues, the place of the artist in society, and so on. Perhaps the biggest challenge lies in how to make artistic material speak about these important topics. Where do the words of the musician end and the discourse of art, not on art, of art itself begins? Let us give space to artistic material to speak to us and to everyone. And by this, even these closing words are coming to an end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter, for completing this task so brilliantly. And as Peter mentioned earlier, that this will be the beginning of the next 10 years and more for us and for all of us here. And thank you, everyone of you, to making time, the very important resources to be here, making your journey to join us today. And I have no other words to say because except kind of like continue with your plans, and please share your plans, and if your plans coincide with each other, please let us know and kind of join the plans together. I think we all need all the hands and hearts that we can have to make all this possible for, not for us, for the next generation and for everything. So I think that I'd like to invite the new generations. Could be the promise for next year's that he will be part of the curation of this international symposium. So I'm passing the torch also to our alumni, Don, and he will be collecting some of his friends to be helping with all these international symposium. So thank you for the task. Also, I rarely ask. Thank you very much, and then we'll be joining and we will see each other again. And thank you very much for you all to be here, and tomorrow there will be more discussion, but musical discussions. So please get yourself prepared, have enough breakfast, come and have lunch before joining us from 1 o'clock onwards to 11 o'clock at night. And you'll be rewarded by a nice Chinese dessert at the end if you survive. Okay. And Bernard will be performing cast will be performing twice. He accepted my challenge to do a blind date, and also Michael will be the ending act of the tomorrow's concerts. Don will also has his Pink Sky Orcas doing performances as well. And thank you. Before leaving, I would like to give my gratitude to all of my team who are now running around everywhere, making sure that everybody will not get wet. And then all the team who has been colleague, even the boss, who is here, who's really, really have to say how appreciate I am for Ajahn Narapon, our chairperson of the supporting committee. She has been really behind everything. She is a student of Princess Kalyani Watana, and she has been in every single step supporting us in every way, in every way, including time. She really spending a lot of time together with us, and yeah. And thank you. Can we give a really big applause to her? And she is really a reason that why we have many things that we are having now. So thank you very much. Yes, I should stop. And then thank you.
Just to say, after 10 years, Anatai, what you have done is absolutely extraordinary through these symposia. It's had world resonance. And it's come from literally the seed of an idea. And if a tree ever was able to grow from that seed like you've made this evolve, it could not finish without us being able to take the time to acknowledge your personal investment in this, where you saw possibilities, you saw futures, and frankly, you've always been one step ahead. Congratulations. And thank you.